Alright, hello everyone. The seasonal change is upon us. The advertisements have already been put up. We are going to be moving on to the Masalt era soon. When the seasonal change happens, what happens is that the Ryoshu seasonal IDs and egos will no longer be dispensable, right? Then what happens is that the Masalt dispensable will open, right? Then the Honglu dispensables will also be open up again, right? So that means that if you want to go and pick up all of your Ryoshu IDs and egos, you will kind of have to wait until after Masalt's Canto is over. So it's going to be quite a while. That's why I want to kind of prioritize the characters for you guys to go and pick up for your respective teams or for whatever you want to collect. All right, if you are worried or if you are hesitating, don't worry. Eventually, the characters will enter your pockets, and by then, there might be another best team on the block because every single Canto will have power creep. This one is assured to us by the CEO, after all. Right? So let's get into it. We'll talk about the Ryoshu seasonals first. Okay, for the most important one, I think that every new player or any person that's trying to enter Limbus company and you just want to have a team that deals with 95% of the content, it has to be the middle, right? The middle can handle long form content. The middle can handle short form content. The middle can handle reflectorials, refraction railway, farming, story. 95% of it, I'm certain the middle team will just settle it, right? The only times the middle will not settle it is if they lock out some of your characters so you can't make the whole middle team available. And if the content happens to have a very specific mechanic that punishes the middle's counter mechanics, right? But even then you can work around it. Even then you can work around it. Just force purple like crazy, and eventually Otis becomes online and she hard carries you, right? For those little nuances, you will have to go and figure it out, but it is also good because you will understand the game better, right? The middle team is also relatively cheap since one of the IDs that is important for it is a 2-star Masalt. 2-star Masalt is very, very cheap, so you'll be able to go and make the team relatively easily. And if you don't have one of the pieces, just replace one of them with a character who can do NV guards or NV shields or NV evades, anything like that, and it will be perfectly fine already, right? So that's the middle team for you. They are very, very strong, and I assure you they will clear like 95% of this content and you won't even know the boss mechanics because you literally just killed it by accident, right? Next, we talk about Ryoshu. Ryoshu is going to be one of our capstone IDs. She is very, very strong. Her weakness is really shorter contents. If the content is not very long, if it's not Refraction Railway, if it's not a very long content in the form of Mirror Dungeon Extreme, for example, then it's not going to be very, very crazy for Ryoshu. The reason why is because she takes quite a while to scale. You either need to obliterate your own team by corrupting your egos, or you need to passively let them explode to enemy damage, or you need to just eat them yourself with her guard skill. Right, so it takes a while to get her online, but once you get her online, the value of this Ryoshu is very, very crazy. Right, so that's why Ryoshu is going to be another very highly recommended character, but also costs a lot. So if you don't have enough resources, consider maybe picking her up and then trying to grab some of the more important nurse fathers so you can give her the more appropriate buffs. Right, for example, your Heathcliff here is a high priority character because he gives Ryoshu the ability to tremor burst. So that's very important for the burn tremor team. Right, so just go and prioritize if you cannot grab everyone, but also do try so that you have some spare fodder to feed into her in case the content is a bit too hard, right? And of course, if you want to brute force everything, you can, because with so many extra meat shields on the field who will tank damage for her, she can basically do everything in the game, and the nurse fathers are all her shields basically, right? So she's very, very, very good regardless. Okay, for the sinking season, we only actually have one major sinking character here, which is the Ujat. The Ujat is very, very good. She has blue sand, she has infinite ammo, effectively infinite ammo. You will actually never run out. You can try, but it's very, very difficult. And after that, she's just superior clashing compared to everyone else. Right, so she's very, very ridiculously good. The only weakness is that she's not able to apply Echoes of the Manor. So you have to use like Butler Faust, you have to use Ishmael's Bygone Days Ego to go and apply it if you're using this character here. But it's a very, very good character. I love this character. Right, she wins clashes, right? She has no business winning sometimes. Okay, other than that, we also have your Dawn Index. Index Dawn is also a nice generic sinking character. She's not really a super sinking character, but she does enjoy it. So that's why you kind of shuffle into your team sometimes, and she can do some very, very nice work for the sinking team. Right, so that's why you can shuffle here. For general, however, we have these two. because Rien and Faust are not exactly super syncing oriented characters. Uh, Technically, Rien is a Furioso bot. He is really just here to follow the index and then just do a crazy Furioso at the end to cash out. The problem with Yisang is that he has 3 IDs that are all related to syncing. He has Solemn Lament Yisang with the new ego now is very, very, very strong. You also have Spice Bush, who can still do his stupid boss skipping methods. So you see a lot of speedruns use that Spice Bush if the boss is skippable thanks to your Spice Bush skill tree explosion, right? So that's why right now Yisang, the Rien version, doesn't really have a strong place in syncing, but if you have no other choice, you can always shove him in there. He will be more of a generalist Unga Bunga character rather than a more syncing oriented character, right? After all, the new syncing method is to apply butterflies and then just to beat the shit out of the guy, because the more you beat the shit out of him, the more butterfly bullshit you will do to the boss, right? So that's how it works now. So that's why Rien is more of a generalist character. Same for the Faust. The Faust is very awkward. The Faust is essentially the one of the weakest characters in the game, and she's really only used for her passive rather than for on-fielding in any case, right? So you wouldn't really want to field her, and there are plenty of other sinking characters that can be fielded instead of this Faust over here. You just leave her in the bench so that she can give you a nice passive, right? So that's pretty much this logic over here. After that, for the Bremer team, we have obviously the Rodion plus Heathcliff combo here. The problem with Bremer and sinking actually is that a lot of their good IDs tend to be Walpurgis IDs, right? Here are 4 possible syncing IDs. This is also a tremor syncing character, so she can kind of apply to 2 places, right? Then we also have the burn tremor characters, who are here. So it's also very, very tricky to go and get that. I also didn't talk about her, but she is a burn character as well. So you can do Magic Bullet Otis if you want to apply more Dark Flame to activate the burn even more, right? You can also use Hornet, who can apply a lot of burn count, a lot of burn count, right? So there's so many different variations of the 2 teams that you basically have different scenarios. Some of them are better and some of them are worse, for example, right? So burn is also pretty expensive for a new player, so maybe do not consider going for it unless you have all of these pieces over here. The most important pieces to get are obviously these 3 over here, as these are all burn tremor units, right? Except for Philip. Philip is a burn domain expansion character. That's why he's going to be someone that enjoys the burn and will do ridiculous damage thanks to all of the burn that's being applied, right? Then after that, for the last slot, just slap in a Ryoshu. That's right. And if you happen to have some nurse fathers lying around, feed them to the Ryoshu so that she becomes super, super strong. You can feed this guy to Ryoshu also. This will activate Shin for your Rodion and will also enable her to activate her Tremor Burst. Very, very strong stuff, right? So this is the Burn Tremor team. Very expensive, but ridiculously strong. And after that, we have the Pointalism team. The Pointalism team is kind of middle ground team, not super duper strong, but has a good sustain from the Rodion Ego that was released to basically give them a Zane heal, and also because they have very, very good scaling and they can just run the entire ring team, and the ring team happens to have some 2 stars in it. So if you want to make a very, very budget team, you could do it. And once you get the massive skill tree out from the Honglu over here, you are basically online already. So all of your ring characters can play the game. It's not the super strongest team. It just kind of buffs the ring team to a more decent level, right? Yeah. Then after that, all the characters here benefit from applying a bunch of bleed, and if the content happens to be bleed weak, this team is going to be very, very nice for those kinds of contents, right? It's not super strong compared to any of these other crazy teams that I've talked about, but it is still good enough to clear all the content in Limbus Company, right? Limbus is not that hard, so you can clear with anything. It's just that these teams are just the most brainless and very, very simple for people to go and figure out how to make them work, right? Optimizing them is another story, but very simple on the baseline. After that, we have the Poise team. Poise team doesn't exist. Poise is not really a team. Poise is more of a bonus status that will give you extra stuff. So you would love to have Poise, but you don't want your whole team to revolve around Poise. You want to have strong characters, then you slap Poise on them to make them even stronger. That's how Poise kind of works, right? That's why the only actual Poise character that I consider very, very stupidly strong is the LCD Ishmael, because she is designed like a Heisho. She's go fast, do more clash, do more coin power, do reuse coin, do more damage. And then after you do it a bunch of times, you get a free skill to apply to the enemy, and it's a 5 coiner potentially, right? That is the reason why I think this is the only super important ID to go and pick up over here. For the Sinclair, he's just important because he's part of the Saikai team, but he's also not very crazy. If you play him normally, you actually realize that you need to kind of jerk off your sword like 3 times to get the poise so that you can actually play the game. It takes a while for him to scale. So that's why it's kind of awkward to kind of keep him in the team. Usually, I feed him to Ryoshu so I can get him off the field and slot in a better slot over here, right? Not a super important character, right? Yeah. So other than that, we have the charge team. The charge team is going to be also a bit awkward in this season. There's currently a problem with charge, which is that there's no crazy cash out for it, right? The crazy cash outs that I'm referring to is something like your Scorch Field, like your Blood Feast, a domain, basically. A domain expansion for charge doesn't really exist. A charge field, for example, would definitely pop off, right? Since they generate so much of that charge, that they can feed that charge to maybe something like a Nero ID with Hyper Beam, and then boom, you explode the entire enemy team by charging up that one Hyper Beam. Something like that could make charge a more interesting team comp, rather than right now just getting to 20 stack, dump 20 stack, do it again, do it again, do it again. Technically, every character in the game is a charge ID because all of them want to get 30 stacks of something, or 20 stacks of something, or 10 stacks of something, and then they go absolutely crazy. Right? For the Nurse Fathers, they are reverse. They have 30 stacks of something, then they dump that stacks as fast as possible, or they have like 2 stacks of something, then they dump that stack as possible. Right? Like your Otis, she has sunglasses, she needs to dump the sunglasses so she can open the sword. Once she gets the sword out, she don't need to dump sunglasses no more. Same for your Honglu, after he ponders for a little bit, then he's like, oh, magnum opus, okay, we're done, don't need to think anymore. Right? So everything in this game is actually charge, but charge itself is the original one. So charge really needs a very specialized charge team that really has like some sort of bonus mechanics. They tried already. They tried to release like W Otis and so on to kind of give the charge team more damage scaling. But it's not enough. We need to have a really big domain expansion. We need to have a really big payout. Then the charge team will be worth it. So that's why I know people are very critical of this Isang. I also didn't really care too much about him. That's why I didn't bother making a video for him. But essentially, in the future, it might be a case where they actually did what I said and they release a super charge field and then they release a super awesome ID that wants a billion charge or wants a billion dimension ruptures or something like that, and then you get a crazy payoff for that character, right? Then this Yisang will have a crazy glow up. I've seen it happen many times already. Garden of Thorns Gregor also, when it first came out, nothing happened, right? Because there was no crazy team comps yet. But many seasons down the line, Garden of Thorns Gregor is back because it is a very nice healing ego. It has a different elemental scalings, and it happens to be in the middle team because middle team you can put 6 NV and you will get NV bonus, so it's good, right? Yeah. So charge team, I'm waiting for the glow up, but otherwise this is my lowest priority recommendation for anyone that wants to do charge stuff. Charge stuff right now is a bit awkward position. We have to wait a little bit to see what P-Moon is cooking. I'm sure they can bring it back into more meta style later on, right? After that, we have the egos. For the egos, it's actually pretty damn simple. Each ego is kind of assigned to a specific status. It's like W engines, like 6-star weapons. Some characters can use the 6-star weapon because it has very strong substats or very strong passive that you can use on your character, right? For our egos here, they are the same. Some of them are very specialized to one team, but sometimes can be used for multiple teams if they dip into it. For example, the Yisang ego here, while it is designed for the Solemn Lament guy because it is literally the gun, you can actually slap it onto your Spice Bush, you can slap it onto your Rien if you wanted to, because it will still give bonuses because it is Yisang, right? So you can technically do stuff like that, similar to Hoyoverse games. But otherwise, the teams that these belong to are quite obvious. The middle team loves these two. You get very nice buffs to your team if you use this one here, because it is only just NV resources and it will apply a debuff that makes the enemy take more damage from NV. It's just simple as that. And the Otis Ego is literally the best thing in the world. It literally converts resources from NV into what you don't have. So you can activate Garden of Thorns Gregor, for example. So that's why it's very strong. You should spam this Ego as much as possible if you need to farm resources in the early game. Right, it's a very strong tool. It also has healing, by the way. It has healing and resource generation. It's a workhorse ego. You're gonna spam this shit like crazy. Too bad it's on Otis, who is your best DPS character, so sometimes it's very awkward to try to do it. But it's still very important for the middle team. Otherwise, they can't really generate the other resources very easily. After that, we have the Ryoshu egos. Very simple. It's just a Ryoshu AoE nuke.
as long as you do the Saikai shenanigans, as long as you generate the resource in the Saikai team, you will be able to get a lot of this resource, and then you just go oonga boonga, hit everyone, right? You get crazy, crazy damage scalings thanks to all the Tiansha stacks, the heaven killing stacks, right? So you will do a lot of extra damage with this ego over here. Same for the Yisang ego over here, right? That's why there are 2 Tianshas over here. Okay, if you happen to have the resource for it and you need to nuke a bunch of enemies, these are very, very good egos to do it. After that, we have the burn team. You don't really need this one. For the burn team right now, it is the burn tremor variant, which means that the only core ego you need for the burn team is actually a tremor ego. The everlasting ego is the most important ego for the burn tremor team, because this ego applies a white tremor burst, which will allow you to possibly get +1 more tremor bursts. It is very, very strong for scaling the damage. So actually this one gets an honorable mention, right? But this is a standard ego now. So you can pick it up whenever you want. Legitimately just grab it whenever you want, right? This ego is not that big a deal anymore to worry about. This ego is going to be a seasonal ego, but it's not required for the burn team to use, right? So do consider whether you want to pull this now or you want to grab the more important core standard ego first. Okay, after that, we have the Lust Ref ego for Rodion. This one is very good. It's a Zane ego, it has SP healing, it has regular healing, it costs Lust plus Ref resources. In a burn team, in a Lust team, you can definitely generate those resources very, very easily, right? So that's why this ego is ridiculously nice for you to go and use and sustain your team. Rodion now has like 4 or 5 variants of healing egos already. Whatever one you have and you can fund it pretty well, just go and use that one. This is just one of the possible options for you to go and use. And then for Poise, this is the last one. That's it. Poise only has this ego from this season, right? There is nothing else too crazy for this season for Poise. They only really get the Tora Calgia egos as the other very important egos to kind of slap into a Poise team. Like I said, Poise doesn't really exist. There's no like Poise domain expansion yet. So also they don't have anything too crazy to kind of make the whole team pop off. And they don't have some super crazy ID to make them pop off yet. They currently have LCD Ishmael, which is one of their best DPSs, right? But they don't have anything like Matthias Otis tier. All right, they don't have anything stupidly crazy like that yet. So we'll just wait and see, but I'm sure they'll cook it because we still haven't fully explored the storyline for our Bamboo Hatter Kim after all. We haven't finished that one yet, right? So that's pretty much it for this entire list of recommendations here. Just pick your favorite team and then go and acquire them, or pick your favorite character and go and acquire them. For the most recommended teams in order is going to be the middle, followed by Ryoshu, followed by Sinking and Bremer equally, and then everything else will be recommended afterwards. The reason why Sinking and Bremer is just because if you have these units here, you can lean towards Sinking. If you have these units here, you can lean towards Burn. Burn is technically cheaper since you only need 3, but Walpurgis Knight is not very friendly after all. You might not get all the 3 burn units that you're looking for, right? So, yep, just leave it at that. Don't worry, later on, if you still don't have them, you can go and dispense them from the Walpurgis store. So definitely keep them as a priority. If you want to invest in Bremer Stonks early, then you wait for Walpurgis Knight again, and then you dispense them. Aha, Burn Tremor team acquired already, right? So that's pretty much the idea here if you want to go and invest in these stonks over here. For egos wise, priority it would be getting the Ryoshu ego, but the Ryoshu ego is technically a paid one, so you need to wait for the next season, then you can dispense it for just your shards. It's actually pretty good that way, right? Everything else, just make sure you go and collect them if you want to go and play the specific teams. Blade Lineage must use this one because otherwise the Massault is very, very bad. You want to get this one, it's a healing ego, it's not that important, but if you have it, it's very, very lovely to have, right? For the middle, however, these two, the Otis one is the non-negotiable one. It's basically a must-have ego for the middle team. For the Heathcliff ego, it is not a must-have, but it is very nice to have because you will find many situations where you need a decent clashing ego, and this is one of those ways to get a decent clashing ego, right? So that's it, guys. Thanks for watching. I hope this has helped you to decide on what kind of IDs and egos you want to go and hunt for the upcoming season transition, right? Anything else, feel free to leave a comment and someone else will go and answer you. All right, so that's it, guys. Thanks for watching, and I shall see you guys next time. Bye-bye.